Culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you're a pastor or ministry leader, or you're a student that hopes to become one of those things one day, then you need to learn how to create culture, because that mission that God's put on your heart to accomplish in the world won't happen if the organization that you're leading's culture doesn't actually value those things. That's why on this episode of the ISM Show, me and Pastor Chris are talking about how to become a culture creator. How's it going, ISM family? Welcome to another episode of the ISM Show. My name is Zachary Thayer. I am your online pastor for Illinois Student Ministries, and this is a show where we help you lead yourself, lead others, give to missions, and live on mission. If you've been following ISM on social media for the past couple years, you've heard us talk about those 4 values a lot. And for this episode of the ISM Show, I wanted to share with you a conversation that I had with our director, Pastor Chris Stanley, that takes a sort of behind the scenes look behind those 4 values. Why do we emphasize them so much? What makes them so important? And why are they so critical to the culture that we want to create here at Illinois Student Ministries? And by sharing this behind the scenes look of culture creating, our hope is that this conversation would inspire and equip you to become a culture creator in your own context. If you found this episode of the ISM Show helpful in developing your leadership, share it with a friend, screenshot it, share it to your Instagram story, and tag us in it. That would mean the world to me. If you're listening to this episode on your favorite podcasting app, subscribe to us there, rate and review the podcast. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe to us if you haven't, hit that notification bell so you can keep up with all the content that we're dropping here on the Illinois Student Ministries YouTube channel. And with all those things being said, here's my conversation with our director, Pastor Chris Stanley, on how to become a culture creator.
Your values shape your culture. And so if you want to create a culture in your ministry context, you have to tie it back to values. Your values are things that are tangible. They're spoken. They're put on social media. They can be put on a banner. They can be put on a piece of paper. It can be mentioned in an announcement video.
It can be on a T-shirt or a hoodie. It can be on a
T-shirt or a hoodie. Correct. Your values are expressed kind of. Your values are expressions of your vision. You know what I mean? And your values are not your culture. Right? Your values shape your culture. So what's the difference between values and culture? Well, culture is the evidence of what you actually value, right? And so a really good kind of way to kind of articulate this is if you have a banner outside of your youth ministry that says, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've done, you are welcome here. And you have a brand new student walking into your youth ministry and they read that banner, well, they have just observed one of your values, right? You want to be hospitable, you want to be welcoming. Well, when they walk into that youth ministry, do they actually feel welcomed by your culture, right? Is your culture evidencing what is written down as a value on that banner? Well, if your students are clicked off and your leaders are standing in a corner talking to each other because they haven't figured out how to talk to students yet. If the kid is being made fun of, if they're getting dirty looks.
Or just straight up ignored.
Or just ignored, even unintentionally. There's just not an awareness, you know what I mean, of that new student that's just walking in. You know what I mean? Like the kid holding the lunch tray at a new school, figuring out what table he gets to sit at. That's an extremely awkward situation. Well, unfortunately, your culture does not match the value that is on that banner. So every single day, we're taking these assessments of our youth ministry every week, every month, every event, and we are in the process all of the time of wrestling and bringing into alignment our current culture with our expressed values. And you don't just have culture overnight. You have to wrestle that thing into alignment with your values. That's why it's so important to know what your vision is so that you can express your vision through your values And so you can create a culture. So let's bring this all the way back to Illinois Student Ministries. Our 4 core values pretty much come down to this. We live on mission, we give to missions, we lead ourselves, and we lead others. By living on mission, we're trying to create a culture of evangelism. By giving to missions, we're trying to create a culture of generosity. By leading ourselves, we are trying to create a culture of holiness and sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. And by leading others, we are trying to create a culture of discipleship. And we just feel like in the context of Illinois Student Ministries, if we can steward that culture well, by making sure that we stay on top of our values, then every single event that we have, every single moment that we have on social media, even like what we're doing right now, is wrestling our expressed values and the culture that exists right now into alignment with one another. Mm-hmm. And it's always going to be a wrestling match. You have that wrestling match, even like when you have a new group of kids come in to your youth ministry that are 6th or 7th graders, there's a wrestling of alignment, and there's a sharing of values, and there's when you onboard new leaders and when you have new kids come into the youth ministry, and for us it's new youth pastors, it's new kids coming to the events and stuff like that.
I know. I feel like trying to create a culture that's statewide is maybe not more difficult, but a different kind of difficult than trying to create a culture in a local church context or a local youth group context.
Well, what makes it difficult is that we're one level removed from the students that we're trying to create the culture.
We're not in their everyday lives.
And so here's the thing. You might have the local youth ministry who's really great at creating culture, and they have their expressed values. And so they're, there's their youth ministry culture, and that culture isn't necessarily in competition with our culture. But as far as our office is concerned, because if I were to put my job description down on paper in its most basic form, as the district next gen director for Illinois Student Ministries and Illinois Kid Ministries, my job is really threefold at the end of the day. It's to create community or provide community for our leaders and our students. It's to make sure that I am providing communication about our events, who we are, what's going on, our values, culture creation. We're communicating well with our people so that they can be on top of their schedule, so that they can be organized. We are organized so that you can become organized, right? Because we have some big rock events that you need to know about so that you can move forward with your local ministry context. And then we also want to provide resources. I mean, this is even a resource that we're providing. The ISM Show, these podcasts, these promo releases, just different resources that we get trickled down to us from the national office that we would like to pass on to our people. So if I can, in my job context, create community, communication, and resources for our people, then I feel like I'm accomplishing it. Well, the avenues that I do that most successfully would be through our values and through culture creation. So all of our values create this context through which we want to accomplish our purposes, how we do our events, how we distribute our resources, how we're in community, how we communicate, and the resources that we provide. Are they helping us to create the culture that we're trying to create to be really successful in next gen ministry?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a great conversation? I love talking to Pastor Chris about this idea of culture creating, because not only is he wise when it comes to it, but he's passionate about it as well. If this episode of the ISM Show was helpful to you, share it with a friend, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app. If you want to see more content like that, go through our podcast feed, go through our YouTube channel. You can find all of it on there. And just one quick bit of housekeeping news. We will be taking a break from the ISM Show over the next couple weeks because we are hitting the road with the Next Gen Missions Tour. We are hitting the South and Central regions over the next couple weekends. But just because we're taking a break from the ISM Show does not mean that we're taking a break from creating content. We'll be dropping videos, photo dumps, quote graphics, and so much more from this tour. So if you want to keep up with all that content, make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok as well. With all that being said, that's all I have for you in today's episode of the ISM Show. I love you guys. We'll see you soon and hopefully see you on the road on the Next Gen Missions Tour.